Welcome to part 2 of this series that I'm putting out on mental health and specifically suicide. So I would like to speak about suicidal ideation. I came across this word. So I've heard this word used many times, and I thought it was a fancy word to describe the thought of suicide until I was invited to a Zoom call by a friend of mine because of the work that I do in the mental health space. I did not want to because I felt that, I have been in many mental health spaces, but I didn't really have anything to say about suicide because I know nothing about suicide. I don't know many people who have had suicidal thoughts and things like that. And I didn't really get into that space. But she insisted that I join the call. So I did. And while I was listening, first of all, I learned that her first husband had committed suicide, which shocked the living daylights out of me because, obviously, I had no idea. And it wasn't written on her forehead. It wasn't something that she carried around, you don't see it and you don't think it. It shocked me, but explained why she was at the forefront of this. But as one of the gentlemen was speaking, I remember I was driving, and as one of the gentlemen was speaking, he said, and then when you get the suicidal ideation, same words, but they hit me like a ton of bricks. I literally parked my car and I thought, oh my goodness, suicidal ideation is an idea of suicide that is planted in a person's head. Now, why is this a big deal for me? I have been on a path for the last so many years, especially the last 7 years, where I have been questioning life. I've been questioning who we are, why we are, where we are. This was born out of my going to Butabika Hospital, the National Referral Mental Hospital, and doing work there. As many of you may know, I danced with the patients at the hospital every month for 3 years up until COVID. But every time that I went, I just looked at these patients and thought, what exactly is going on in these people's heads? What if there is truth in what they're dealing with? When someone says, I hear voices, and yet we're calling it auditory hallucinations or visual hallucinations, like they don't exist, you're just imagining them. What if they were? And I kept asking, why are they here? Why are they feeling these things? Why? Why you? So I came to the realization, my realization, that as spirit beings, we are missing the fact that we are having a spiritual experience in a physical body. That means everything that we are experiencing is spiritual with a physical manifestation. And yet, I find that we are focusing on the physical, even though we speak of the spiritual every day. When we pray, when we think, when we perceive things in the spiritual and talk about it in the physical, we seem to then shut down the spiritual element of our existence. This is what came to me that day when I had the suicidal ideation. An idea is planted in your head. And what is an idea? An idea is a thought or suggestion as to a possible course of action. An idea is a thought. This is the first definition I found the minute I Googled idea. It's a thought or suggestion as to a possible course of action. And I want us to go back to the suggestion. Who is suggesting? Who is suggesting? We don't suggest. So then I suggested to myself, no. Somebody suggests to you. A little voice suggests to you. And guess what? That realization blew my mind again when I remembered that I have had a suicidal ideation before. Yes, me, Jerry Opoka, happy, bubbly, always aware of who I am, where I am. Yes, I have had a suicidal ideation. Let me tell you my story. So many years ago, I'm not sure if I had both my children, but I definitely had one. I had malaria, and malaria would really, really, really torture me. So I got my medication. I was getting injections. So I went and I got my medication, and I was supposed to go back for another injection. But I was feeling so sick that I did not want to drive myself. My husband was out of town. So I ordered a cab. And while I was sitting in the cab, I just started feeling like I did not like the world that I lived in. I did not like my country. I did not like my town. I did not like my life. And I looked around out of the car and thought to myself, I just hate how this country looks. I hate the dusty roads. And this is many years ago. My second child is turning 17 this year, so you can imagine how far back it was and what our city looked like then. It wasn't exactly as nice as it looks now. And I thought, I hate the potholes, I hate the dust, I hate the buildings, I just hate all the shops, all the commotion. And I was driving, if you know Kampala, I was driving in the area of Old Kampala. I lived in Mengo, and I was going to Buganda Road to I think it was still Case Clinic then, to get my injection. So the area around Old Kampala was always so busy, around the mosque, and I looked out and I just hated everything. It was so hot that day that I just felt like I'm in the wrong country. And I thought to myself, if I left this country and went to like a first world country, like to America, I thought of how beautiful the streets were. And I thought to myself, yes, that's actually where I'd want to live. And I felt so much better, like, oh, there's hope that there's a place that I can be happy. Then I looked up and I saw a Coca-Cola billboard. Now it had the bottle and the dew on the bottle running down. And guys, it looked so disgusting. I hated it so much. And then in my head, I realized, even in America, I'm going to find this billboard. Suddenly, there was nowhere for me to hide. There was no place in the world for me to run, because the same ugly that I'd seen in my country, in my town, in that spot, was also in America, because I knew that the same billboard I see here is the same billboard all around the world. And suddenly, I just felt like, I can't live here. I hate what I'm feeling. Everything was too much. And then, in the calmest, softest, sweetest voice, was an idea. Maybe it was like I was being told. Maybe. In fact, this is how it happens, guys. This is what's so powerful about the ideation. You hear it, and then you echo it. So the idea drops. Maybe, it wasn't even like, maybe you should. It's like, you could leave the world. And then I'm like, oh my God, yes, I could leave the world. Oh my goodness, you guys. You have to understand. It's like a huge eureka moment. Like, I have found the solution. Oh my God, I could leave the world. Yes, I could leave the whole ball, the whole planet. I could leave. I can actually leave. The peace that comes with that thought, the deep, fulfilling joy that comes with that thought. You see, now it has gone from the idea into a thought, and it's my thought. I'm the one who has given it the fuel. I'm the one who has given it the energy now, because I can see it. I can see my life in it. I can see how, if I leave, oh my God, that's the answer. And then as I'm thinking, something else that I have seen is that the ideation is the thought, and it's a thought without a plan. So now I've come from the idea popped in, it's like a seed that was planted, and then I took on the thought of it. Because I always say our thoughts are the language, that the interpretation of what is happening. I see something, I see it, I can interpret it, but I need words. I need words and a language. I can think. You know, some people say they speak in English. I have a niece who is multilingual. So when she was young, she spoke Swahili, or she spoke a bit of Swahili, or understood Swahili, French, English, Luganda. And I remember she would say she thinks in one language. She finds it easiest to speak in one language, to think in another language, and so on and so forth. That thought, now you give it a language. There are things that I think about in Acholi. There are things I think about in English. There are things I think about in Luganda. So you have gone and given the idea a language that you can perceive it in. That is now the thought. Okay? But the thought is without a plan. So for me, it was like, now, okay, what am I thinking? Because now there's no plan. Like, I'm excited, but there's no, what am I thinking? Oh my goodness. I come back to the reality that I have just had a suicidal thought, that me, Geraldine Opoka, I had had a suicidal thought. Then panic sets in. And I'm thinking, no, I cannot be this. Oh my God, no. So I call a lady, a friend of mine. I worked with her, Fiona Abamako. You did not know, but I called her and I said, please note that this happened in a space of probably like maybe a minute or two. This whole process, so quick, but so impactful. Why do I know it was so quick? Because from the time I started thinking, looking out and thinking, I hate this place, you know, I don't like this town, I was around the old Kampala mosque. And by the time I called Fiona, I was still around the old Kampala mosque. And the car was moving. I called this girl and I said, Fiona, please pray for me. I need you to pray for me. And she said, Jerry, what's wrong? I said, don't worry, I'm fine, but I've just, you know, thought something and it freaked me out. Pray for me. She prayed for me. I went to hospital. I came back home. Before I slept, I called her again. I said, pray for me. We did that for 3 days. I kept calling her and saying, please pray for me. And bless her heart, she would just break out into the most powerful prayer that I received with everything that I am. Because I said, I can never, ever think this again. Trust me, I have never, ever thought it again until the day I was on that Zoom call. I thought, oh my goodness, here I was saying, I don't even want to be a part of suicide conversation. And when my beautiful friend Renu watches this, she's going to understand why the universe kept pushing her to come back to me. I actually got to a place where I was like, I don't know what to add to this. You know, I just will not respond to her message. Not respond, but when I found her messages, I was not dying to come in and say, oh, sorry, I missed this one, because I just did not know what value I could add to this conversation until now. But I want us to understand that that idea is not planted by us.